Joining us for our discussion in the special on today is Mzwanele Memani, Director of Value Chain Analysis in the Department of Small Business Development, Eustace Mashimbye, the CEO of Proudly South African, Rosheda Muller, the President of the South African Informal Traders Alliance, and Mike Nkuna, the Chairman of Masingita Group of Companies, who's widely regarded as one of the most successful commercial and retail property developers in South Africa. Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And I'm Dan Moyane. I don't have such an illustrious history as you, Mr. Nkuna. By the way, Mr. Nkuna is in the studio with us. The other guests are joining us via Skype. Mr. Nkuna, can I just start with you first up and say welcome. Thank you very much for your time. When you saw this whole clicks ad thing playing out and saw the government's response in trying to make sure that the retailer would stock up locally produced goods, what went through your mind? You've been in business since the dark days of apartheid in the 80s.
Thanks very much, Dan, and thanks to your viewers, and thanks for inviting me to the studio today. You know, indeed, you know, when we saw what happened, you know, on the TVs and saw, you know, government responding and saw what, you know, EFF, you know, has done to force the government to realize that, you know, this kind of racist act, you know, is not going to be allowed. You know, it reminded me the olden days, as we are aware that, you know, blacks, you know, have been deprived of a lot of, you know, opportunities in the past. I remember well, you know, when the uprising started in 1976, it opened up, you know, some, you know, kind of, you know, opportunities for us. You alluded to, you know, the property development and retail, you know, which, you know, it happened after, you know, the uprising, because blacks were not even allowed to own houses at that time. And for the government of the day, which is the apartheid government, to give blacks, you know, ownership and ownership of businesses. So that's when, you know, it opened up, you know, opportunity for some of us, and whereby, you know, when we developed some, you know, of the shopping center, we were able to bring, you know, different, you know, retailers in those stores. And I remember very well the first, you know, hair salon that came into my center. It was Alex Hair, which, you know, supported, you know, Black Like Me product. And
that was Herman Mashaba's product.
It was Herman Mashaba's product. And it gave us as black, you know, the proudness that, you know, we must believe in ourselves. Because, you know, without believing in yourself, you'll never do anything.
Believe in yourself. Without believing in yourself, you will never do anything. But it's about an opportunity. Let me bring you Mzwanele Memani from the government side, the Director of Value Chain Analysis. I'm just wondering, did we have to wait for a racist hair ad like that for the Department of Small Business Development to move to ensure there's shelf space for locally made products, including hair products in this particular case?
Well, Braden, thank you so much, and thanks for the invitation for us to participate in your show. In fact, we started engaging the wholesale and the retail industry by March this year, where we had a number of small companies that are ready for listing as suppliers. And so actually the discussions started quite early this year. And so, in fact, the advert that we saw recently, in fact, kind of necessitated us to fast track the process of negotiations. So it's a process we started earlier by identifying a number of products from small companies. So, then these will range from chemical products to cosmetics, furniture products, clothing products, and so on. And so there are lessons that we've learned at the beginning of this year, but then in engaging the wholesalers, and they are really listing as the SMMEs. And I think this is a story our minister has been sharing with the public of South Africa. And so I think we're going to continue, but then with this advent that came about to fast track that process of listing for small companies.
Yeah, it's sad for me in a way to hear that we had to wait for a racist advert to begin to fast-track things. Now, Eustace Mashimbye, you're the Chief Executive of Proudly South African. Your mandate has got two parts to it, from what I understand. One is to influence local procurement as Proudly South African, and also to influence consumers to buy local. When you saw this playing itself out, did you think at some point that you are failing in your mandate?
Thank you, Braden. I don't necessarily think we view this failure on the part, but rather as an opportunity for all role players within this space to start ramping up the level of local content in ourselves. Because you think back to where the campaign was, the repositioning and trying to find, then bring the retail, and it's done on an industry basis. If you compare then and now, you will see that, for example, a lot of the practices that have gained include with the clothing, textile, leather retailers. We have put partner with retailers for shelf space, higher levels of local in that space, and in the latter part, it started engaging retailers in FMCG space. So it didn't the like of clicks, but we've spoken to the other name now. We had a workshop, and one of the outcomes of to start having bilaterals, where the bilateral can lead us to they start looking at, especially within local manufacturers, where they can start using some of them, but starting to won't necessarily come to that, but we'll go in as
okay. Tata Mashimbye, we're battling to hear you. We hear you in spares. Your audio keeps on cutting and coming back, cutting. We're going to try, maybe not now, when we go to a short break, certainly, to redial. But before we go there, Rosheda, informal sector, you represent the Informal Traders Association. Your sense of how things are being done, because I hear statistics like, for example, 34% of our GDP in 2019 came from the informal sector. Are you having a role here? Do you get support to make sure that your members in the informal sector get shelf space?
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to share SAITA's view. SAITA is a South African Informal Traders Alliance. It is a national organization representing the voice of the informal sector. We were launched amongst, across the world. There's StreetNet International, which is coordinated by Dr. Pat Horn, who has launched us in South Africa in 2013. The struggle continues. And yes, SAITA tries at all times to let its voice be heard at a national level, at a provincial level, and at a local level. But unfortunately, the pace of our recognition is very, very slow. It is important to note, that in South Africa there's one economy, but two distinctly different, although indivisible components. Your formal business sector on the one hand, with the trimmings and the perks, social protection, largely guaranteed incomes, and on the other hand, you have the survivalists fending for themselves. And yes, indeed, our stats are standing over 3 million currently in South Africa. As we say in SAITA, nothing about us without us. Do not draft policies about the informal sector if the sector is not around that table. And I need to highlight one important point. In 2015, South Africa was a signatory to the recommendation 204 at the ILO. That is the formalization of the informal economy. So since 2016, SAITA has been a part of the national team for the implementation of R204. We have on that national platform COGTA, Department of Small Business Development, we have SALGA, we have ILO, we have many government as well as the informal economy sectors there. But implementation is very, very slow. And we hope now, having been given this platform, that this inclusive economy will bring us our correctly positioned role as a very big player in the economy.
Okay, Rosheda, we're going to explore that, the way forward, because I've also heard terms like the informal sector is the unseen sector. The informal sector has a role to play. It contributes to the GDP. But some people believe that the future in terms of our economy is informal. We'll discuss this when we continue our discussion here on Today. Stay with us.